For Wednesday, the 20th of September. I'm Stephen Ridgway. It appears that hackers have breached the international criminal courts systems. A week or so ago, but it's only recently become clear. Not entirely sure how the systems were breached. It's not equally unclear as to what the intended outcome from the attackers was. However, the ICC has confirmed that there was a breach, and they are investigating with help from the Dutch authorities. The International Criminal Court, of course, being hosted by the Netherlands. So I suppose this one has to live in that category of oh no, but what can we do about it? Well, really very little. It's concerning for me on kind of two levels. Firstly, there is an awful lot of information there, which I'm sure we wouldn't, as a a civilized Western nation, we wouldn't particularly want criminals or other nation states to have access to all the information that the ICC has on certain people. ICCC, for example, just to put it in context, it was the ICC that issued an arrest warrant for Vladimir Putin as a consequence of crimes allegedly perpetrated during Russia's invasion of Ukraine. So, they hold a great deal of very sensitive information. One would hope that that information is well protected. The other side of this is then, well, again, we've got a situation where, these large organizations, especially these kind of supranational organizations, who is setting the standards that they need to attain for things like their own internal security? I don't particularly think that anybody understands how this stuff is regulated and how it's quite frankly how it's secured. Yes, of course, they're an international criminal court. Their response is going to be, well, obviously we take security seriously, but clearly not seriously enough. And this is a global organization that has 123 member states. Who is saying whether they're holding the data safely or not? So who watches the watchers? Interesting questions that I think we should be asking more of these large and unaccountable organizations. China linked group has been seen using a new Linux backdoor malware with backdoor. So the group is known as Earth Lusca, I think, Lusca. It's China-linked espionage group. Tended to be focusing on government organizations in Asia and Latin America at the moment, or at least recently, but has developed a version of the Trochilus malware, which is a piece of malware known to people in the Windows world. It's a remote access Trojan. The code for that got leaked, became publicly available in 2017, so it's been around for a while. Well, it looks like this has been rewritten to focus on Linux, and is being tracked as Spry socks, as in sockets. And it is the first Linux variant of this particular rat. Something then I think to watch out for. It is worth looking to see that your endpoint protection solutions on Linux, that you're actually running some endpoint protection solutions on Linux devices, because there's a temptation to um, still to skip that. But there's many organisations, they are, there's a reluctance to run good endpoint protection, especially if Linux is the operating system in the server environment. There are always performance and capacity concerns and blah, blah, blah. But believe me, your performance and capacity is pretty crap if you've been hit by malware. So, yeah, I think there's no excuse for not doing that. But you need to make sure also that your whatever endpoint protection solution you've got is keeping up to date with these sorts of things. Also worth looking to check that your security visibility tool, your SIEM, or however you are dealing with this stuff, is also up to date and is capable of identifying the network flows or the endpoint actions that are associated with this sort of thing. The initial exploits, and Earthlusker has been seen exploiting CVE 2022 40648 plus various others that are relatively recent. Remote code execution bugs in Fortinet, for example, have been previously a target for them. They've also been seen to target stuff in vulnerabilities in ASP.NET, Ajax, and other bits and pieces. So, relatively less well-known adversary group, but now increasing attacks against Linux devices off the back of what they would perceive as success in the Windows world. And then finally from me, not a short one today, following on from yesterday's, I'll call it a rant, because it really probably was a rant about the well-intended but I think ultimately very problematic online safety bill that is working its way through the Houses of Parliament in the UK. The Britain's Interior Minister has actually gone out and warned Meta about rolling out end-to-end encryption on its platforms to ensure that this will not come at cost to our children's safety. So, yeah, I think this is the propaganda that I see behind this is I'm very uncomfortable. So you take something which nobody would ever disagree with, such as compromising children's safety. Nobody in their right mind is going to say, yes, I want my systems to compromise the safety of children. And you then use that argument to introduce a whole load of laws that do probably very little, really, to improve children's safety, but whilst also giving government and law enforcement agencies the right to do all sorts of other things with your digital footprint. So it's disingenuous. Yes, okay, that it's well intentioned. I stand by this. It's well intentioned. However, it's been hijacked by people who have seen an opportunity to push their own agendas for mass surveillance of citizens in the UK, and then wrap it up in something which you know nobody is going to want to argue against. So yeah, disingenuous. Suella Braverman, not a good approach to this stuff, especially as Meta, who runs WhatsApp, have already pushed out end-to-end encryption in their most well-known messaging tool, WhatsApp. So, does it make much difference if they then push this out to Facebook Messenger and Instagram Direct? Well, potentially, I suppose, but I think the bigger question is Meta going to be forced to provide backdoors for the government, or are they going to come to some other arrangement, or possibly pull out of the UK, which is what various larger organisations are talking about doing? So I think that's on the cards for Apple as well. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. But this, I'm sure, is a warning shot, because it looks very likely that the bill will get royal assent and become law in the not too distant future, and we're all going to have to work out what on earth we do about this really dreadful piece of legislation. So again, that is my rant for the day, and I will stop at this point. Thank you all for listening. Hope you have a great Wednesday. It's all downhill from here to the weekend. Hurrah! And I'll speak to you all again